You open your wallet at the coffee shop, swipe your card, and somewhere in a glass tower, a machine decides you're $3 short. The overdraft fee is $35. You just paid more than 10 times the cost of your coffee for the crime of being broke. And the bank, the institution that claims to safeguard your future, just made more profit from your poverty than the barista made in tips all week. This is not a mistake. This is not an accident. This is the design. Welcome to the junk fee economy, where the very institutions we trust to hold our money have become expert pickpockets, lifting billions from our accounts while we sleep, one invisible transaction at a time. And if you think this is just about bad luck or poor planning, let me tell you something that will make your blood run cold. The system is rigged. It has always been rigged, and the people who rigged it spent decades studying exactly how to make you believe it was your fault. Let me take you back to a moment in American history that most people have forgotten, but the banks never did. It's 1933. The country is in the grip of the Great Depression. Families are starving. Men who once wore suits to work are now standing in bread lines, their eyes hollow, their hands shaking. And the banks, the same institutions that gambled away the economy, are looking for a way to survive. They needed to rebuild trust, sure, but more importantly, they needed to rebuild profit. And so they made a promise, a simple promise. Deposit your money with us, and we will keep it safe. No tricks, no traps. For a generation, that promise mostly held. Banks in the post-war era operated on what was called relationship banking. You knew your banker's name. He knew yours. When you overdrafted by a few dollars, he might call you, give you a day to make it right. The fees existed, but they were rare, almost embarrassing to charge. The bank made its money the old-fashioned way, lending out your deposits at interest and giving you a small cut of the profit. It was boring. It was stable, and for the American middle class, expanding through the 50s and 60s, it worked. But then something changed, something fundamental, something that would transform banking from a service into a predatory industry. And it started with a memo. Somewhere in the early 1980s, as deregulation swept through the financial industry like wildfire, a consultant figured out something revolutionary. He looked at the data and realized that the most profitable customers were not the wealthy ones with large balances. They were the poor ones, the ones living paycheck to paycheck, the ones who would accidentally overdraft, the ones who wouldn't read the fine print, the ones who wouldn't complain, the ones who couldn't leave. Think about that for a moment. The people with the least money became the most valuable targets, and this wasn't some rogue bank trying something shady. This was an industry-wide revelation, shared in conference rooms, refined in spreadsheets, and quietly implemented across every major institution in America. They had discovered a gold mine, and the gold mine was you. The mathematics of it are almost beautiful in their cruelty. Let's say you have $100 in your checking account. You buy coffee for $3. You buy lunch for $12. You buy gas for $40. You buy groceries for $50. In your head, you're doing the math. 3 plus 12 is 15. 15 plus 40 is 55. 55 plus 50 is 105. You're $5 over. You'll get one overdraft fee, $35. It stings, but you understand it. But here's what actually happens, and this is where the knife goes in. The bank doesn't process your transactions in the order you made them. They reorder them, largest to smallest. So first comes the groceries, $50. Balance, $50. Then comes the gas, $40. Balance, $10. Then comes lunch, $12. Balance, negative $2. Overdraft fee, $35. Balance, negative $37. Then comes coffee, $3. Balance, negative $40. Another overdraft fee, $35. Balance, -$75. You made 4 purchases. You get charged 2 overdraft fees, $70 total. And this isn't a glitch. This is a feature. Banks call it high to low posting and internal documents, the ones that came out in lawsuits, the ones they never wanted you to see, show executives celebrating this tactic because it maximizes fee revenue. They knew exactly what they were doing. They ran the simulations. They calculated that for every person who would notice and complain, 10 more would just pay it and assume they had made a mistake. The shame was part of the strategy. Make people feel stupid, and they won't fight back. Now let me tell you about monthly maintenance fees, because this is where the absurdity reaches a new level. You give the bank your money, they take your money, and lend it out to other people at interest. They make profit from your deposits, and then they charge you a fee for the privilege of letting them use your money. Read that again slowly. You are paying them to hold your money so they can make more money from your money. It's like paying a taxi driver for the honor of pushing his cab to your destination. But here's the really sick part. These fees are often waived if you maintain a minimum balance. Let's say $1,500. So if you're wealthy enough to keep $1,500 just sitting there, you pay nothing. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're the person who actually needs a bank account to function in modern society, you pay $10 a month, $120 a year. For what? For the crime of being poor. The people who can least afford it pay the most, and the people who can most afford it pay nothing. It's a poverty tax, plain and simple, dressed up in the language of account maintenance. And then there are the ATM fees. You walk up to a machine to withdraw your own money you already deposited, money the bank is already making interest on, and they charge you $3. But wait, it's not even their ATM, so the ATM owner charges you another $3, $6 total, to access $20 of your own cash. That's a 30% tax. Loan sharks in the 1920s would blush at that rate. And if you think that's bad, try overdrafting at an out-of-network ATM. Now you're paying the ATM fee, the out-of-network fee, and the overdraft fee. $45 to withdraw $20 you didn't even have. You just went $25 deeper into debt for trying to access money. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, before it was gutted and declawed, did a study. They found that banks in America collected $34 billion in overdraft and NSF fees in a single year. $34 billion. Let me put that in perspective. That's more than the entire GDP of some countries. That's more than the budget of NASA. That's more than Americans spend on books, on music, on movie tickets combined. $34 billion extracted from the poorest account holders in the country, and the top 5 banks took 70% of it. But it gets worse, because of course it does. There's something called the overdraft cascade, and it's the final boss of junk fees. Here's how it works. You overdraft once, they charge you $35, which causes another overdraft, which triggers another $35 fee, which causes another overdraft, and on, until you're $300 in the hole from a $5 mistake. And then, they charge you an extended overdraft fee for staying negative too long, because apparently bleeding you dry once wasn't enough. I want you to picture something. Picture a single mother working 2 jobs, exhausted, trying to keep her kids fed. She misjudges her balance by $10. By the time the fees cascade, she owes $200 she doesn't have. She can't pay rent. She gets evicted. Her kids end up in a worse school district. Their future's dim. And somewhere in a boardroom, an executive gets a bonus for driving fee revenue growth. That's not capitalism. That's cruelty, with a quarterly earnings report. Now, let's talk about the psychology. Because the banks didn't just stumble into this. They hired psychologists. They studied behavioral economics. They learned exactly how to exploit the human brain. They know you don't read the terms and conditions. They know you assume free checking means free. They know you won't call to complain because you're embarrassed. They know you think it's your fault. And they designed every single piece of this system to take advantage of those facts. There's a concept in psychology called learned helplessness. It comes from experiments where animals were given electric shocks they couldn't escape. Eventually, even when the door was opened, they wouldn't leave. They had learned that resistance was futile. That's what junk fees do to people. You get hit once, twice, 10 times. You call customer service, you wait on hold for 40 minutes, you get transferred 3 times, and maybe they waive one fee as a courtesy, and you learn. You learn that fighting back is exhausting. You learn to just accept it. You learn helplessness. And that's exactly what they want. But here's what they don't want you to know. It's all negotiable. Every single fee can be waived if you know how to ask. I'm going to give you the script right now, and I want you to memorize it, because this script has saved people thousands of dollars. You call the bank. You stay calm. You say this word for word. Hi, I see I was charged an overdraft fee. I've been a customer for X years, and I'd really appreciate if you could waive it as a one-time courtesy. Can you help me with that? Notice what you're doing. You're not begging. You're not apologizing. You're reminding them you're a customer, implying you might leave, and you're giving them an easy out by calling it a courtesy. 70% of the time, they'll waive it immediately. If they say no, you say, I understand. Can I speak to a supervisor? Supervisors have more authority to waive fees. And if they still say no, you say, thank you for your time, and you hang up and call back. You get a different person. You try again, because every call costs them money, and eventually it's cheaper to waive your fee than keep dealing with you. But here's the real solution, the one they're terrified you'll figure out. Leave. Just leave. There are credit unions and online banks that don't charge these fees. They exist. They're FDIC insured just like the big banks. They have apps just like the big banks. The only difference is they're not trying to bleed you dry. Capital One 360 checking. Ally Bank, Chime, Discover. 0 monthly fees. No minimum balance. No overdraft fees. Or if there are overdraft fees, they're capped at $10 instead of $35. Switch. Take your money and walk away. And when the big bank sends you a survey asking why you left, you tell them exactly why. You charged me junk fees, so I found a bank that doesn't. The entire junk fee economy is built on the assumption that you won't leave, that you can't leave, that the friction of switching banks is too high. And for decades, they were right. But technology changed the game. You can open a new account on your phone in 10 minutes. You can transfer your direct deposit with a few clicks. The walls of the prison are gone, but most people don't realize they can walk out. And this isn't just about banks. This is everywhere now. Airlines charging you to pick your seat, to check a bag, to print a boarding pass. Hotels charging resort fees that aren't included in the advertised price. Ticketmaster adding 40% inconvenience fees to every concert ticket. Credit card companies charging you $39 for paying your bill 1 day late, even though you've had the card for 10 years and never missed a payment before. Rental car companies charging you $50 to refill a tank of gas that costs $30. It's metastasized. The junk fee economy has infected every corner of modern life, and it all traces back to the same realization the banks had. The people who complain the least can be exploited the most. But here's the thing they didn't account for. We're starting to wake up. People are starting to notice. The Federal Trade Commission is cracking down. Class action lawsuits are piling up. Banks have been forced to refund billions in illegal fees. And more importantly, people are talking. Social media has broken the silence. When someone tweets about a ridiculous fee and it goes viral, suddenly 10,000 people are sharing their stories, and the shame evaporates. The isolation breaks, and people realize it's not their fault. It's the system. So let me tell you what I think is coming. And this is where it gets interesting. I think we're at the beginning of a financial rebellion. Not a violent one, not a dramatic one, but a quiet exodus. People pulling their money out of predatory institutions and putting it into ethical ones. People refusing to pay junk fees and fighting back. People realizing that the real power in capitalism isn't held by the corporations. It's held by the consumers who can choose to walk away. And when enough people walk away, the system has to change or collapse. The banks spent decades building this machine, tuning it, perfecting it. They thought they had won. They thought they had figured out how to extract wealth from the bottom of society forever, quietly, invisibly, legally. But they made one critical mistake. They got greedy. They pushed too far. The fees got too big. The tactics got too obvious. And now people are angry. Not sad, not helpless, angry. And anger is a fuel that burns very differently than despair. So here's my challenge to you. Look at your bank statement right now. Find the fees, add them up, multiply by 12 to see what you're paying per year. And then ask yourself if that institution deserves your money. Ask yourself if they've earned your loyalty. Ask yourself if the convenience of staying is really worth the cost of being slowly drained. And if the answer is no, then do something about it. Open a new account. Transfer your money. Close the old account. And when they ask why, you tell them the truth. You tell them you're done being bled dry. Because the junk fee economy only works if we let it. And every single person who walks away makes it a little bit weaker. Every fee fought back against is a crack in the armor. Every story shared is a spark. And eventually, enough sparks become a fire. The system is not invincible. It just wants you to think it is. But you have more power than they want you to believe. You always have. You just forgot. And it's time to remember. The glass towers, the quarterly earnings calls, the shareholder meetings where executives celebrate record profits while families drown in fees. All of it is built on a foundation of learned helplessness and manufactured shame. But that foundation is crumbling because the secret is out. The game is rigged, yes, but knowing the game is rigged is the first step to refusing to play. And when enough people refuse to play, they have to change the rules or lose everything. So close your laptop, pick up your phone, find a better bank, make the switch, fight the fees, tell your story, and watch what happens when millions of people decide they're done being the product, done being the target, done being the fuel for a machine that views their poverty as opportunity. The junk fee economy had a good run. Decades of unchecked profit extraction. But every empire falls eventually, and this one is starting to crack. You can either watch it happen, or you can be the one swinging the hammer. The choice, as always, is yours. But choose quickly, because every day you wait is another day they're reaching into your pocket and taking what's yours, and they're betting you won't notice. Prove them wrong.